Good morning everybody and welcome to tutorial 12, our last tutorial for Skip 140 Science in Our World this semester. So we're going to tie off the end of our semester with sustainable living. So we have our student presentations though for our second half of the tutorial. So the first half is going to be about sustainable living. So let's just start with a reading of the book, the Tomorrow book by Jackie French, which kind of sums up a little bit about us.
By Jackie French. A story of ideas and hope. Once upon a time, or maybe just tomorrow, a little prince crawled into the palace library. The little prince loved books. But somehow the world outside the palace never looked like the places he imagined as he read. "Why?" he asked the butler. "That's real life, Your Royal Highness," said the butler kindly. "Well," said the little prince, "I think real life could be improved." One day the king and the queen packed up the royal camper van and left the little prince in charge. The local kids decided it was time to visit. "Please, can you help us? Our veggie garden is dying. We can't fill up our swimming pool. There's not even enough water to have a bath." "Well, you can collect the water from your roof, use it over and over again inside, and then clean it to grow your veggies. You can even condense water from the air, enough to fill your swimming pool." Soon the kids were back again. "We need better ways to get around. We're sick of sitting in the car and petrol is so expensive." "Well," began the little prince, "you could run your car and your whole house by using the sun or the wind. Why not use solar power and helium to fly instead?" The prince hadn't been back at the palace long when, "More visitors, Your Royal Highness," said the butler. The little prince grinned. "I think I know why you're here." He went over to the window and shouted out loud, "We need to share the world. We must find homes for animals with lots of trees and safe ways for them to move around." The palace library was always busy now. "It's going to be the best world soon," cried the little prince. And the sound of children's voices everywhere joined in. "Maybe tomorrow."
So the story, the Tomorrow book by Jackie French, it's a timely book at the moment, and as they're on the screen, that Jackie French says that it promotes environmental responsibilities, cooperation and problem solving. So it's an important concept that we I have been looking at over the whole of the semester. So hopefully it might tie in with moving you forward and moving you on to the future after this week, and being able to give you some ideas about what a sustainable future for us all might look like. So just a little bit about an Australian context, and in particular when we look at the Banksia, the swamp Banksia, some of our drought related plants and our animals as well. It's interesting to note that some of our more important and interesting species, such as the Banksia here, that has 170 species in the plant family, the Proteaceae family. They're Australian wildlife and flowers, and they're recognised in a lot of our popular gardens at the moment. And they characterise the flower with spikes, the fruiting cones and the heads. The Banksias range in size from prostrate woody shrubs right up to 30 metres tall. And the one that you can see there, the swamp Banksia, is actually one of our street trees in my suburb. And there is a lot of those around. I've got a couple of dried flowers at the moment that are nearly 20 centimetres long. So it is important to look at our indigenous plants and our indigenous natives that we do need a sustainable future for. And just within context, some of the Australian Aboriginal uses for the Banksia is about how they used to soak the flowers in water in a coolamon wooden bowl, and they would, the sweet nectar would seep out of those flowers, and the Indigenous Australians would use those for a sweet drink. So a little bit like how we make up a cordial drink with just say an inch to half an inch in the bottom of the glass of water. They would do something similar to that. The dried flowers on the cones were also used to strain drinking water, and those that were a little bit more sturdy would also be used as a hairbrush as well by the Indigenous peoples. And so their tool making is very important in that. And there's just a couple of brushes that I have made alongside some ochre. It's really hard to purchase ochre, and particularly at the moment from our Indigenous community. And normally the ochre that I usually do use in my education programs, it's usually in the rock form, not in the ground form that you see there that I have purchased from reliable sources there. But with the rock form, to actually take it out of the ground, you do need permission from the Indigenous elders. So I wasn't able, for this activity that I was using it for ochre painting and tool making, I wasn't able to gain that permission in a timely manner. So therefore, I ended up using purchased ochre in that regards. But you can grind ochre with students if you're able to get some of the ochre from the Indigenous communities, so that you can make those scientific connections with your students in regards to changes of matter and solids and liquids and those sorts of things. You can make your brushes there using resin. I've used here resin that's gone solid, that's underneath the string as well, and you can plait lax plants, the leaves from lax flowers, to help you with that as well. So you could make that. So it's important. Why is it important, our Indigenous context, in regards to sustainability and our sustainable future? Well, when we look at our Indigenous Australian plants, we also need to know that they don't require a great deal of phosphorus. So if we are watering these plants or they're accessing runoff with a high deal of phosphorus, they're not going to survive. So for us to sustain our Indigenous plants native to our areas, we need to look at some of our sustainable practices as well. So we've looked at water quality in regards to high phosphorus and the runoff, but looked at agricultural as well. So what we need to now look at is our home environment, and what do we have and what are our practices that we are doing at home. So I've just got on the screen there a couple of shots from my garden at home there, and some of the things that I've put in place in my garden, some of the practices. So you can see there I've got some really beautiful summer flowering native plants there. So I've got the up the top left hand corner, the beautiful dwarf flowering gum that has in a great season. Last season was really good. And you can see masses of the red flowering gums there, and the pods just are ready to pop. And the crepe myrtle alongside that. So the red flowering gum is on the end, and you can't see that kind of behind the camera. But then along that side there, your flax down the bottom, and then also you've got your crepe myrtles as well, which is a beautiful tree that loses its leaves in autumn. And you can see I've also got lots of autumn plantings to complement that as well. Our street is full of European aces. So unfortunately I had no choice there out the front in a sense but to plant more aces. So I do have one down one side of the house. I have a lot of aces and oaks that complement the rest of the estate. But down the back, I've also been able to implement an organic permaculture garden. So I have a 6-bed permaculture garden. This is last weekend, so it was pouring with rain, freezing cold last weekend. We were lucky to have a little bit of sunshine, so I zipped out to take some photos. So this is 6 of the permaculture beds. The others sort of lie to the right there and go all the way down the end of the property. Now that part of the property there is not allowed to be built on, because there is an underground river system that taps into the underground aquatic system down through there, and that's really important that we look after that system at the moment. So we are not allowed to build on that part. So what a better place to put is your veggie garden. So veggie garden is not doing so well at the moment just because we're transitioning from autumn to winter. So our summer crops here, we've got some zucchini left that are still through there. We've got leeks and spring onions and things like that in this garden bed. And we've started to crop the leafy greens over here. So we've got companion planting here down the bottom, which is really important, and it's right next to the permaculture garden as well. So we've got rosemary and curry plants along with our citrus along the wall. This blank wall here had a lemon tree that was unfortunately eaten by possums. So there's some pests that we need to deal with. So companion planting will help with the sustainability of the gardens here. So, and in particular, our leafy greens that are under the net here were being attacked by a lot of pests, cabbage moths, snails, slugs, all of those sorts of things. So protecting that crop there to have a sustainable crop is also very important with your companion planting, with your rosemary and your curry plants there that act as a repellent for those insects that don't go anywhere near there, as does your onions as well. Having a big a plot of onions in the middle there also helps with that companion planting. So today we're going to look at the ideas of using low phosphorus products in the home and looking at organic products that we can make for pest controls and through companion planting, that we can have in an urban, a sustainable backyard. So it's something on a small basis that we can do to put sustainable living back into our own individual practices. So they're just some examples of what I do, and depending on sort of what time you get as to how much maintenance you can put into those things as well. Sometimes I let the beds lay fallow, so I have a rotation system through my 6 beds. One bed will always have nothing in it, and I'll be preparing that bed, maybe a green manure, or I might be putting nitrogen fixing plants back in there like those, or I might be putting in something like sugarcane mix or newspaper mix just to put nitrogen back into that soil to make it healthy and aerate it. So then you can have that with the nitrogen cycle that we learnt about, that we can have that system and that cycle operating through our soils. Our soils are really important. The mini microbes that live in those soils, your worms and other insects as well, are extremely important. And that's another part of Earth and space science that we sort of haven't really had much chance to get to, but it's an easy way to implement in a school garden and have a system like this happening. You've got your composting bins through there. There's another hot bin through there and a worm farm sitting at the corner there that just gets out of that hot afternoon sun that comes through this part of the garden. All right, so some of those things, the practices we're going to look at today are looking at household cleaners and organic garden sprays that we can use for those pests that I mentioned there as well, our garlic sprays. So we're going to have a look at that. And also too, I have a YouTube link to a video to the Earth Echo YouTube for their snack size science that they're putting on for home learning at the moment. And on the 15th of May, I will be presenting this topic to the US audience. So I have got that link up there as part of this tutorial for you to look at as well. Okay, we'll keep going. So gardening greens. So once you begin your garden organically, you'll be protecting your own very little piece of the planet. So it's an important quote there to think about and to look at. So it doesn't matter whether you're after a flower-filled garden, whether you have strictly fruit and veg, as you've seen by my garden. I have a mix of plants, and it's just what I like, what I've decided that I wanted to plant within my garden. So gardening without the use of pesticides and other pollutants and chemicals brings its own challenges and rewards, and we'll go through some of those today. And organic gardening aims to be sustainable and ensuring that the land and its resources will be available for future generations. And to the right, the picture there, we have a cabbage moth that has done a great deal of the damage in my garden at the moment to my leafy greens and my broccoli leaves. Because the weather had been unseasonably warm coming into autumn, we've now changed in the last week. We have had the month of May. We've had that amount of rainfall within the first week of May. So we've also had another heavy rainfall this weekend as well. We had a little bit of break today, but not a great deal of sunshine. But the cabbage moth in particular was one of those pests that, in those conditions, in the unseasonable conditions, was starting to become prolific and was starting to take hold in my veggie garden. So what was I going to do about it? So that also meant things like making up a garlic spray that I'm going to show you. That will be on that link that I'll send out to you and put on Leo for you to have a look at as part of this tutorial. It complements what we're doing today. All right, so my lovely summer rainbow chard there, that does very well in the soils and the conditions that I create for the plants. So organic gardening is no harder than the conventional way. If anything, it's also a bit easier, and you'll have that little peace of mind of knowing exactly what has gone into your soils, as well as the pleasure of seeing what comes out of it. And the pleasure is that being able to pick as when you're cooking, go out to the garden and pick what are we going to use in our dishes today. A little bit like MasterChef, they ran out to the herb garden. I ran out to my permaculture garden and see that. But it's also about improving soils and constantly improving those in a natural way through composting straw, pea straw, or organic straw that doesn't have weeds in it. Shredding newspapers and putting that nitrogen compact back in there. When we first started, my house is only 7 years old, and we've got a 40 square metre block, so we have lots of lawn space at the front, and it was full of clay. So I'd come from a sandy soil where nothing survived and I couldn't grow anything to heavy clay, very different. So I decided, neighbours thought I was a bit weird, I decided to plant a crop of corn throughout my front lawn. But I only let that crop of corn grow to about 10, 20 centimetres, and then I mowed over it and mowed it back in and mulched it back into the soil. The roots of the corn open up the clay and break away the clay so that I could then sow my lawn on top of that. So I had so much lawn to sow that it was easier to sow it that way rather than bringing in already turf that's already done. And I liked that horticultural side of things, that I was improving the land that I was living on. All right, so in particular, garlic is a really good pest control. You either love it or you detest it. Insects are the same. They have the same reaction to it. So it doesn't seem to bother some of them, but to others, garlic is a repellent. So controlling garden pests, with garlic is a low-cost, non-toxic control and can be done quite simply. So how do you use garlic as a pest control? All right, so we make up a spray. So some of the insects that are unwelcome in our garden, aphids, ants, beetles, that cabbage moth, the caterpillars, slugs and snails. So these are some of the examples of those insects that a garlic spray will repel. So using it as a pest control, you can also purchase a garlic spray, and it comes already in a convenient atomizing sprayer, and that's usually mixed with other natural products like eucalyptus oil, potassium soap, pyrethrum. But making your own spray is also less expensive and a very simple project for controlling pests in your garden. So first of all, you need to make a garlic extract. So you need to crush in a mortar and pestle, or you can buy it in a jar already pre-done and pre-crushed, or use a blender. So you need to crush the garlic, and to that you're going to add water, and you're going to add drops of dishwashing soap. So make sure that that natural soap is biodegradable soap. And I know in the supermarket you can buy the really cheap $2 laundry wash mix as well, which will do quite well in there. But you only need a few drops. So you're going to strain that mixture through some cheesecloth, stockings, anything that you get. So you don't want that bits of garlic that are in the bottle, because they will clog up your sprayer, and there is nothing worse than having a sprayer that's been clogged. So you need to store the concentrated garlic in a glass jar with a tight fitting lid in the fridge, and then this is what you need to do with it. So you're going to make a garlic spray, so you're going to dilute the concentrate with 2.5 cups of water. You're going to pour into a spray bottle or pressure sprayer, and then you're ready to do some damage in your garden. So I would put in a bottle sprayer that is probably 500 mil. That's about the size of a small soft drink bottle. I would probably put about 3-4 tablespoons of that mixture in to the water. Give it a good shake up. And keeping in mind that it's a natural pesticide, so it won't last forever. So it's best to use it as soon as making, because it does lose its potency over time, and then it's not going to have that same effect as well. So just be careful if you're making it up in summer. You don't want to spray these in the hot sun on your leaves. You'll burn your leaves. So you want to spray on top of your leaves and underneath your leaves in order to get all the access to all those pests. You want to do it when it's a little bit cooler in the evening as well. So you can see there some cabbage, that damage that cabbage moth has done to that cabbage there. So there's no way you could use those outer leaves of that cabbage there. You'd need to use the heart of the cabbage in the middle. Okay, so maybe spray the plant once or twice a week, depending on in how much rain you've had as well and how much pests are in abundance. If it rains, it's also clearly going to wash off your your organic sprays, so you might need to do it a little bit more. So don't spray when it's getting close to harvest time unless you want your lettuce to taste garlicky. Other than that, that's not going to be too bad for them. And also garlic spray is a broad spectrum pesticide. So only spray the parts of the leaves that are infested so that you lessen the risk of harming any other beneficial insects, such as your ladybugs. They're the ones that you want. All right, so we're going to move from organic gardening to our household gardening, household cleaners, and the impact that has in the connection between the gardens. So we can model practices of sustainability that honour, support and cooperate with the processes and patterns by which nature sustains life. So this also includes our practices in the home, such as in the garden. They walk side by side. What we do and what we use in the home affects our garden ecosystems. So if we want a healthy garden, and including those vibrant and healthy vegetables, we also need to include organic cleaners in there, and in particular our laundry and dishwashing liquid. It contains high phosphorus levels, so that's no good for our ecosystems, and we've gone into a little bit of detail there with our water quality as to what happens if we have high phosphorus. We don't get good living conditions for our plants and our animals. We don't have those optimal survival conditions that they need, and therefore we're impeding upon healthy living and healthy reproduction for those and for the good bugs that we need in our life. So the connection there is if you're using a lot of grey water, particularly in our droughts, our natives that we mentioned earlier on our first slides, those plants in particular are very sensitive to our grey water, and our grey water, we need to filter what goes through there and the soap runoff. If we are using grey water, we need to filter that ourselves because it's going straight onto our gardens from our dishwashers and our washing machines, from the laundry and those sorts of things. If you can set up a grey water system that it runs straight out onto the garden, that's fantastic, because in summer you're also using less water and conserving our water resources there as well. So there's a lot of reasons why our organic sprays and what we do in the garden is very connected to what we do in the home and how we use our cleaners in the home. Okay, so when we are experiencing long droughts, when we have the El Nino in effect, we usually end up in a drought situation where we have government legislation saying that we need to have water restrictions. So we need to have a willingness to care for our environment and protect our water supplies. So that's where our water restrictions come from. So we're beginning to develop ways in which we can recycle our water alongside desalination plants. So we also can recycle our grey water onto the garden, particularly the grass and the plants. We wouldn't be able to keep them alive otherwise. So using kinder and natural cleaning products is really important. So going green and keeping clean. So it's easy to get hooked on the last cleaning products that promise a germ-free life, but do we really need them? So at the moment, with our health pandemic, with the COVID-19, this is really important that we take stock and take notice of our cleaning practices. We all know we need to wash our hands with soap. We all know that we need to protect from the droplets in the air that we can pass on to each other that infect us as well. So we need to also understand that some of these diseases, in particular COVID-19, has been known to last on surfaces for 72 hours. So we need to think about our cleaners, and we need to think about our health and our health of our ecosystems in regards to that, and our climate as well. So whenever you squirt and spray your home with commercial cleaners, you're adding to your chemical imprint on the environment. It's estimated that fewer than a quarter of the chemicals used in cleaning products have been subjected to a full safety investigation, while others officially classified as hazardous are still found as key ingredients. So there are alternative and kinder cleaning materials you can use, such as soda crystals, which is sodium carbonate. And we talked about sodium carbonate being, with our acidity and our ocean acidification, that our shells from our mollusks and that are in the sea are made from sodium carbonate. So we know what acidity does to sodium carbonate. So it's also known as washing soda, and it can be the most common household cleaning product. So you can use it to clean your kitchen floors, your work surfaces, your draining boards, and your wall tiles. Okay. One of the ones that we're going to use in our recipes is bicarbonate of soda, so baking soda, and it's also a good cleaner. If you mix it with water, you'll get an alkaline solution that dissolves dirt and grease. You can use this to dry if you need to, and it'll lift stains up from your carpet. So when we have an all-purpose cleaner, you can mix 2 tablespoons of vinegar, baking soda, dishwashing liquid, water. You can mix them all up together to make an all-purpose spray, and that you can use on your kitchen services and things like that as well. So when you're stirring these items together, mix with a fork and dissolve any lumps before you put it into the spray bottle. You need to shake it well because you don't want to clog up the sprayer as well. So then you just squirt that on the area to be cleaned and scrub that with a nylon or a recyclable cleaning cloth, and just rinse that off in between uses as well. Alright, so another product is borax. So it's a naturally occurring mineral and soluble in water. It deodorizes, it can see off mildew and mold. It can boost cleaning power of soap and detergent and remove stains. We're not going to use borax today, but that is another product that you can use to help with your household cleaning. So white vinegar is one that we will use in the cleaners that we're making. It's a surface cleaner and a stain remover, and it fights limescale. So it's really good in the bathroom. It cuts through grease and deodorizes as well as acts as a mild disinfectant. So if you mix half vinegar, half water to clean windows and tiles and mirrors, that's fantastic. Or if you want an antiseptic or a disinfectant, then you can add a little bit of tea tree oil or eucalyptus oil to that as well. All right, so baking soda is another one that we will use, and it's formerly known as sodium bicarbonate. It's a salt. It's found naturally and it's mined, and it can also be produced from sodium carbonate. Okay, so you probably know it best from baking, and it's a great rising agent in the baking. And we also know that from our science experiments that if we want to make a volcano, we mix baking soda and we mix vinegar together. So in this next recipe that we're going to make with our toilet bombs, our toilet cleaners, we need to just be a little bit careful with that as well. Okay. So in cleaning, it's going to combat fungus and act as a scrub, and it also absorbs odors. So you might have some people put an open container of baking soda in their fridge to try and hide and soak in some of those odors that we might get in the fridge. So if you've got a garlic container, it's open or something like that, you want to absorb some of those odors there as well. Okay, so when you're mixing some of these, just be careful, you will get that reaction. Okay, so baking soda is a base, vinegar's an acid, and we know from our pH and looking at acids and bases, and mixing them together creates a salty water with that with that carbon dioxide gas as well, that you know how we blow up the balloons with that carbon dioxide gas when we get that reaction. So the reaction is an immediate clean look, but when you look deeper, you realize that you're left with salt water. So you might need to just wipe that salt water off as well. And that agitation of the fizzy reaction itself can be useful in breaking up and carrying away dirt. All right, so toilet bomb. These are fun to make, and as you'll see in the video that I've attached to this, that you'll also be able to see me making these and demonstrating these together as well, okay? So these are the things that you'll need. You'll need baking soda, citric acid, and now you might need, you can do this, use the essential oils or not, it's up to you. You can use lemon, orange, just to get that citrus clean feel. You can also put in eucalyptus, you can put in lavender, tea tree. It's really up to you what kind of smells that you like, that you resonate with, that you can put in. And you need to spritz your water, so you need a spray bottle of water, and you need some sort of silicone mold or the paper patty pans. You can use a tin of little muffin pans, but they don't come out as easy as silicone molds or the paper patty pans, so depending on what you've got. And also a jar with a lid just for storage. You can pop them down by side the toilet, and then when you're in there occasionally, pop one in the bowl and let it fizz up, and have a big, with the brush, have a bit of a clean, so it makes it easy to clean. So citric acid is inside one of the main ingredients. And it was first discovered in 1784 by a Swedish researcher, and it's derived from lemon juice, hence citric acid. So it's odorless and colourless, and it was produced from lemon juice until the early 1900s, and then it was discovered that it could also be made from black mold, which creates citric acid when it feeds on sugar. So because of its acidity, its sour tasting nature, citric acid is predominantly used as a flavouring and a preserving agent, especially in soft drinks and candies. It is also used to stabilise or preserve medicines, and as a disinfectant against viruses and bacteria, hence why it's included in the task of a toilet bomb today. So when we're disinfecting and cleaning, citric acid is used as a disinfectant against bacteria and viruses, and a test tube study has showed that it may be effective in treating or preventing the human norovirus, a leading cause of foodborne illness. And citric acid is also commercially sold as a general disinfectant and cleaning agent. So for removing soap scum in your bathroom, hard water stains, lines and rust. So it's a really good bathroom cleaner as well. And it's also a very good alternative to our conventional cleaning products such as bleach. All right, so for a demonstration on how to make our garlic spray, our all-purpose cleaner, and also the toilet bombs, I am recommending that you jump onto the link that I've put on Leo for you, and you can find out some more about these products and go through the procedure of how to make those products so that you can make those in your home as well. So I'm running that on the 15th of May. And that's at 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the US. So it's for the US audience, but it fits in really nicely with our tying off the end of our unit, and our sustainable living and sustainable futures of moving forward. So I hope I have left you this semester with some fantastic knowledge and some messages about how we as individuals can act upon the problems that we see in the world. And there are a few different approaches that you can take with those. And it's really important to educate our younger generations. They're going to be our future CEOs, maybe a future Prime Minister in our lot at some stage. So they're going to be our business leaders, and our economic and political leaders. So that's important to create an awareness of, yes, our climate is changing. We have issues with that climate changing, like bushfires and floods and damages. We have issues with health pandemics on a global scale as well. So what can we do as individuals and act upon that to be able to change some of our global practices so that we have a healthier and a better world to live in, and we are leaving a better future for our generation, the future generations of our students and our children to come. So I hope you have enjoyed this semester, and I hope now that I have given you the confidence to go forward and to have a go at science. We're always learning alongside each other. And I wish you all the best for your future teaching career, and all the best for the next 2 science units that you will encounter at ACU. I've enjoyed teaching you this semester, and I want to thank you for being fantastic students. And please don't hesitate to get back in touch with me, to come back and visit and let me know how you're going, or if you need any support in any way with science education or otherwise, please don't hesitate to get back in touch with me as well. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed this semester with you, and hope to see you in the future.